Welcome to the Museum of Creative Human Art, where we're inspiring the creation of art in underserved communities. This is the Artist Talk. I'm Mike, this is my co-host Antoine, and today we have the genius, I call him the genius, Cleveland-based artist, Davon Brantley. Man, thank you for coming out, man. Appreciate you. We appreciate you, man. So man, just to kind of cut to the chase, man, I want to let you know, man, this is really just a conversation. Mm-hmm. You know, not often enough do you sit down with artists or do you hear people sitting down with artists and just having an open conversation. So we're just gonna dive right in. All is fine. You had an opportunity to come to this space and create on your own a exhibition that was titled, we're actually gonna title the show "All Is Fine," just because I think that it's a really for me, it's a mystery. It's kind of like, okay, what does he mean by that? And so I really want to kind of, ask you, what inspired All Is Fine? What inspired you to say All Is Fine?
So All Is Fine came from just this weird wordplay I'll do in my head sometimes when I'm making a piece. Like it's something very ominous or mysterious that people are gonna be like, what does that actually like go into? Like, what are you talking about? And like I started it off based on my website. So if you go on my website, immediately on the home screen, it's just All Is Fine. And you get to switch through like each one of those words, and it'll flip the word to make like a different meaning for the outcome. And so for me, I was thinking about All Is Fine being like, everything is fine with me, everything is okay, nothing's wrong, even though my art may not look like it, but like everything is okay and fine. And then it also has that double meaning of like all is fine art. So because it's like I'm a fine artist and that's what I do. I do a little bit of traditional practices and contemporary practices. And so like for me it was that double meaning of like all is fine in a sense for my head, and then all is fine art for just, my art and stuff.
Okay. And so I reached out to you pre-show to say, okay, who was inspirational? What musician was inspirational? Who was inspirational during this whole process? And you said SZA and The Weeknd. So what made them that big? Yes, that's an interesting combination. So what made them that inspiration? What songs kind of made you say, you know what, I'm about to get busy. It's about to get real nasty in here. So what made them the two?
Nasty.
That's so funny. When we're talking about The Weeknd, we're about to get busy and nasty. That's just a funny saying for in relation to him. But I just think those two make music that has the audience feel a certain emotion. Like whenever you listen to The Weeknd's music, you can't help but automatically go into like, oh, I'm this sad, depressing, like emo playboy type of dude. Like all of his music kind of like relates to that, and it puts you in a space in your mind to where you can visualize like what he's talking about or what pain he might have been through. And like even with the fact that he's made like the song I Can't Feel My Face When I'm With You, and he's talking about like his drugs and all that stuff with the abuse of drugs and everything. But and then like SZA has that calming tone in her voice, and she sings about the same type of stuff though, but it's like a flipped version.
Okay.
So it's like more, it's not even really more PG, but in some sense it's like a different, like less X-rated version of The Weeknd, I guess.
Okay.
Because she's like talking about relationships and toxic relationships from that female perspective, right. But then you have the male perspective of that as well too. So like they both put you in kind of that space to where you get to feel something, and even though you might not relate to it in all aspects, you relate to it in some way. You relate to that feeling. Like someone either made you feel that way or you have made someone feel that way.
Okay.
And so like that's why they're big inspirations within my artwork, is because I want people to walk away from my artwork feeling something, even though they may not have went through the exact same things that I went through. But I want my music to affect someone the same way that music affects me. And I think that's important with artwork.
With most of the paintings and different things that you do, that's kind of like your go-to are those two artists, or is it? I mean, I'm pretty sure like a lot of the work that you make probably is inspired by different artists, but those are the main two go-to albums that you pull up when you. I mean, I know The Weeknd got a few albums that kind of go. So is it a particular like song? Because I know when I'm painting and drawing, it's a particular. Sometimes I get caught on a song through a whole piece. Sometimes.
Wow. Okay.
And so, is it a particular like tone, a particular like song or songs that you kind of tend to like go to when you're coming back to the piece?
I would say there's not really a particular song.
Gotcha.
Because I draw from a lot of different, resources for art. And so those two are big inspirations to me. I would say that I do go out of my element a little bit, because I'll listen to like actual traditional R&B when I'm like going back to a piece, and I'll just think about like those old songs by El DeBarge or something, and like that'll like help me too.
Jeezy.
I mean, I'll listen to Jeezy too, like I'll listen to like all of those, and like Lauren can attest to that too. It's like all different types of music that I listen to. But when I'm in my studio, it's actually pretty quiet, to be honest. Like if there is music playing, it's all in here, like all in my head. So it's not like something that I'm having headphones in or anything, it's just like I'm letting that piece kind of communicate back and forth with me, and I'm making a music or a soundtrack in general for that. And so I'll just think about different lyrics or different tones that I've heard before, and since
in that sense to like when you're like using the brushes, it kind of
and it kind of plays off of each other. And so I think that's more so.
Now, so when you say, speaking of the feeling, emotions, those are words that I'm getting from you when you're describing The Weeknd and you're describing SZA and their music. One of the things some of the feedback that I got from a lot of attendees, they said, I can feel the pain, I can feel all the different things, all the emotions that come off of these paintings. And so Silhouette is one of the paintings that you've done on the wall. And could you describe especially for the people that are listening, can you describe what Silhouette was all about? Yeah. What made you create that to say, okay, I'm going to give these attendees an experience? Can you kind of describe Silhouette?
Yeah. So Silhouette was a revamp of a drawing that I did. It was called On Site, and it was about how African Americans have become targets, especially now in 2020. But throughout history, we have been targets to, racism, oppression, police brutality, and just, targets in general when it comes to like the sexualization, of African Americans, especially both Black male and Black women. Sure. But it was about that, and it talked about, that allure that we get, because in the original piece, the actual body is rendered, and it has like a glow to it and allure, and it's playing off that bias that we have towards light-skinned people, that they're like better to look at. And especially like when you look at Western art, a lot of those bodies and those figures in the museums are fair-skinned people. Sure. You don't necessarily see a lot of darker-skinned people within there. Wow. Unless they're in the background or something horrible is happening to them. But I was playing on that allure and that duality. Like, yes, I'm a light-skinned person. I do love the fact that I am African American and stuff, and that I do have a fair skin and stuff. But also, there's a lot of negatives to that, because I am very privileged in a lot of experiences that not a lot of my darker skinned friends may have those privileges. And so I left the face as a silhouette mainly because I wanted people to put themselves in that position.
Yeah.
And you'll see like a red halo over it, and that red halo pays homage to, you know, those Renaissance paintings where there's halos around saints and biblical figures and all of that, which usually represents something good. But for us, that red halo can mean that red dot, you know, that's pointed at us.
Wow, so that
might
red
not,
dot.
Yeah, that red dot.
Yeah.
And
Wow. Wow.
with this piece, instead of rendering the body, I just left it completely blank, so that now you're entirely putting yourself in there. It's not anything to do with like colorism or anything, or paying attention to that. It's just like putting yourself in that position and seeing how it feels to have a target on you.
That's a fact. I mean, I really love like the layering and the deep metaphors that you put into that piece. I didn't even realize that halo was like red for a reason. I just thought it looked cool, and by you like expounding on that detail, man, that makes me love the piece even more now. Damn, that's crazy.
And given that explanation and kind of really going into detail, I think that also gave people who actually came out to the show, gave them an opportunity to see and feel and understand what's going on in your mind, what was going on in your mind, and it almost be step into my shoes for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so that was good. So I'm gonna say a few or a couple of the pieces, a couple more pieces. Rape of the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
What brought about the inspiration for that piece, man? And I know after you explaining it, but I definitely want our listeners and to really get an opportunity to feel and also see the piece, but to hear the explanation of what made this piece so powerful.
Yeah. So Rape of the Sun is a piece that has 3 different versions of me. In it, the middle version of me is making like a frazzled type of shocked look in there, while the other ones are like, one on the right is trying to lick the individual, the other one is just reaching over in front of them. And that piece was based off of my childhood trauma that I experienced on my 5th birthday, or actually before it, where I was molested by 2 individuals. And the next day I had to kind of sit at the table and have my birthday and kind of pretend like everything was fine and stuff. And so like, not a lot of people had known that when I was like a child, but in my head, I started to split into different like mental psyches and stuff that helped me adapt to like that trauma. So I would deal with sadness in a certain way or anger in a certain way, based off of what triggered me in the moment. And with that piece, it talks about how that scene played in my head, like from that point on.
Wow.
And so for me, creating that piece, it is actually showing the audience how I process that in my head, and how your head can feel kind of like cinematic, dramatic and stuff when it comes to recounting trauma, because like you can see in the piece there's like a lot of extreme darks in there. Sure. There's a lot of exaggerated emotions and stuff, and it just seems like kind of like a snapshot from the Renaissance or something. Yeah. So like what inspired that piece was my personal narrative, but also looking at how people depicted rape in Renaissance art and Baroque art as well too, and seeing how they did that in sculptures as well. And so it really just came from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's powerful in itself, because we deal with young people on a daily basis. That's what we're all about, is just inspiring the creation of art in underserved communities. And so when you do that, you're dealing with the underserved, the African American youth. Mm-hmm. And so trauma is one of the biggest issues today. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I want to point out is that the strength that you have to be able to go into your mind and create something like that and then speak to it.
That's a fact.
Not too many people can do that. And so that's the power, that's the strength, that's the genius that we talk about. That's what I'm like, man, this dude is a genius. Yeah. And so I think that piece inspires that. And so how can you speak to the young people today, the ones that are listening, about dealing with trauma, but being able to use your creativity to kind of release some of that energy, to kind of, I'm not gonna say forgive, but to release some of that energy.
Yeah.
Like, what's some inspirational things that you can kind of give to the young people, and you may not, but I'm just, asking the question of how can you inspire some young people to say, hey, it's okay, you can use this medium to kind of deal with some of that trauma. That may be a heavy question, but
It's layered.
it's definitely layered.
I think, well, for like baby steps, it just takes, kind of talking about it, even if it's with yourself for a little bit. Because with me, it was more so a repressed memory growing up, and it wasn't until it was triggered to where I like fully remembered everything about it. And so after that moment, I was just, frazzled.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to it about. I didn't even know if I wanted to expose it to anyone at all until like I was in college, and then I just start making work out of it and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
Was that experience just a one-time thing?
yeah, that was just a one-time thing. And like for me, it was me taking the initiative to be like, I'm gonna sit down with myself. I'm going to have this conversation with myself and see what I can do in order to change my perspective on holding all these emotions in. And then like, I'm gonna go to a therapist. I went to a therapist. I was able to speak to some close friends about it as well too, which was great. And it really just was a process. And I don't necessarily know like the correct steps doing it.
No, there's no
but
correct
like,
steps, it seems
yeah,
like.
but it's just like, it kind of just goes by how,
What worked for you?
yeah, what works for you and how you are as a person and stuff. But I do like recommend people, if you have to write in a diary, if you have to do drawings like I do drawings, or if you have to paint stuff, just to do that. Or if it's like music therapy that helps you as well too,
Wow.
doing that as well. But yeah, it just takes, finding your outlet and just kind of honing in on it.
Okay.
What about like I know I just wanted to take you back a little bit further to the art and how it was inspired. The inspiration came from like early Renaissance art, and how the figures that we know in museums that we go see every day that have molestation, pedophilia in it, but we glorify it as if we don't see it. And you actually picking that up through your own trauma, and actually using that technique, using that the way to do it. But then we walk past this stuff every day. And it wasn't until like me having a conversation with you that we kind of was like, I kind of like was pulling it together, like, oh wow, you know what I mean? How does how do you even feel about going into the museums and seeing that type of work, seeing that you experienced that type of thing, and how do you feel about it?
For me, I've always had a back and forth about it, because it's like you go in there and you're appreciating this artwork and stuff, but I feel like there has been a huge disservice with the audience, not necessarily the painter or drawer painting it or anything, but the fact that we are walking by these things and we're not really realizing the severity of these situations. Like the fact that you can walk down into the museum and you can see, Zeus disguising himself as a cow in order to get with the woman. We're like, oh yeah, that's just part of Greek myth. And we're kind of very surface level with it for a little bit, but we don't really acknowledge the fact that this situation is entirely wrong. And we're not really learning about why Zeus is doing this and why it's wrong at all. It's kind of like they skip over teaching us that. So they're like, just look over it. It's a pretty painting. So for me, I kind of want to flip that. And I want to be like, yo, these situations happen, and this is how that story actually is. And this is like what you really should be looking into, because there's a lot of, situations that are talked about in art history to where, you know, there's dozens of people walking through a museum and they're just like, wow, that's pretty.
Yeah.
And they're not really digging deeper into
What the work
that
is.
what the work is and what that message is. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna spend, you know, 2 seconds with it
And then move on.
walk away
And
stuff.
I think too, not to cut you off, is what's fascinating about what you're saying is the fact of the matter is, as you as a black artist and myself, going into those same spaces and trying to show our trauma, we get so much pushback.
Absolutely.
Just for police shooting, paintings, all this type of stuff, but we see this stuff all the time. And I just had to ask you and get your point of view from it, just because I just know that you're going to have something interesting to say about it. So yeah, I'm not going to keep you on this subject though.
Yeah, but it is just entirely wrong, because it's like we'll see it in a museum and we'll see it as this huge metaphorical painting and stuff. But as soon as, you know, a black artist is showing the like real version of it, it's like, whoa, you know, back up for a little bit.
right,
And it's
right.
like, well, why should I back up when you have the same exact thing presented in the museum with little cupids and stuff? But like, for me, when I'm showing you what's actually happened in my neighborhoods, in my community and stuff, it's automatically wrong.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
So like,
Hypocrisy, man.
yeah, it's very hypocritical. And like, for me, I want my art to be very raw, and I want people to look at it and be like, yo, yes, something is wrong in this picture. I can't get away from it.
That's a fact.
And I feel that, and I can't get away from that feeling at all either. And then when you hear me talk about like that specific piece as well too, that just gives you like that whole experience.
That's a
Because
fact.
it's like, well, yeah, it's not about some cutesy Cupid flying around giving love everywhere or something. This is about a boy in pain or a
Absolutely.
man in pain
Absolutely.
or whatever. So
This,
it's like,
this isn't a movie. This
yeah,
is a real.
this is
real
real
life.
Yeah.
Right.
My experience.
My
Okay.
experience and everything. And even though it's, I guess I would say very theatrical in my pieces, you still don't really get that romanticized
That's a
feel,
fact.
I would
That's a
say.
fact.
Yeah.
So Lauren,
Yes.
I know that name. Name kind of is close to you, and it's for a reason. So, what brought about the Lauren piece? So
So there's 2 Lauren pieces. One is just of her, you know, kind of, it's an off-guard shot. You know, I was just drawing her.
Okay.
But Lauren is my fiance.
What's up, Lauren?
What's up, Lauren?
And there's another piece where she's holding my head and I'm looking up very enamored and stuff. And that was about, you know, after I got out of a toxic relationship. And the story goes is that in the first drawing before that one, I have arrows shot through my heart and stuff. There's like a mental break going on in the frame. And there's a little Cupid standing on the arrow that's like through my heart and stuff. And he's just dancing around that. So after that experience, I explode and my head lands in like just this dirt field and stuff. And so Lauren comes by, which her name isn't that in the piece, but she comes by and she represents those Valkyrie women that were represented back then. They actually came down onto the battlefield of wounded soldiers and stuff, and they would basically like give them a chance at a second life. And so when you see me in that piece, this is after, you know, I implode on myself from that toxic relationship, and Lauren is, you know, grabbing my head and she's able to toss it into a sunflower field where I'm able to grow as a new person, and I'm able to do that at peace and stuff.
Man.
And like with the piece before that, on the bottom it says, "When it all falls, bury me in Calixtus," and it was all because of like the story of Saint Sebastian and how he was buried there after he got arrows shot into them while being tied into a tree.
So hold on.
So it just goes on into a long thing.
So you said Saint Sebastian gets shot with an arrow, tied to a tree.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so he was like a martyr for his religion. He didn't want to denounce it at all, but you know, back then that was kind of like taboo, I guess. And so they took him, tied him to a tree, and they shot several arrows into him, and they thought he was dead, but he was not, and they just tossed him in a ditch, and this lady came and found him, and she tried to nurse him back to health as much as she could, and she ultimately could not, and he passed away, but she gave him proper burial. And so like within the next piece, you know, with Lauren holding my head and stuff, it just goes back to that saying, when it all falls, bury me in Calixtus. My Calixtus is, you know, the sunflour field.
So the bay came through, say the day.
Yeah, say the day, dunked me in the little sunflower field.
Came through, she did that, she woo, you know what I mean? I get it.
Did all that, you know, and yeah, that's what that piece, you know, kind of symbolized. And then also, again, with like the Renaissance and Baroque references, there was a story about this woman named Judith and stuff, and like the tyrant who was taking over her village. He was just, you know, raping women and killing people, eating up all the food, you know, kind of like Craig in Friday. Eating up all the food and whatever. But, yeah, he was trying to get her into his tent, and she was like, all right, I'm going to go into your tent, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes into the tent, beheads him, and, like, comes out with his head on a silver platter. It is like, we're all free now, and stuff. And that's like been done. That's also been painted by like Caravaggio and stuff as well too. So you can see a lot of references on
Take
that.
me back to college, man.
Yeah.
Tell stories, man. For sure.
But
history.
So, and I know Antoine just said, you know, going back to college and et cetera, and just and really switching gears, because I wanted to talk about those three pieces, but also want to switch gears and give people an opportunity to get to know you, where you're from, and et cetera. So, where are you from? Cleveland?
Yes.
Okay. So you're from Cleveland. What high school did you go to?
I went to Cleveland Heights High School.
Okay, Cleveland Heights. And college. How'd you make a move to? Where'd you go to college at?
I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art.
Okay. How was that experience?
That was fun.
Okay.
I mean, like with any college, you get, you know, goods and bads and stuff. But overall, it was a great experience. I learned a lot. It was nice because I was coming from high school, which I didn't have any art classes in high school. So I took theater and acting. Gotcha. And I also took like a video production course and stuff. But I didn't take any like traditional art classes or anything. And so when I got into college and stuff, I was just like, man, this is a whole different speed for me, you know? Like, I didn't even know about the fact that there was different types of pencils. They was in there talking about HB, and 2 and all. I was like, I don't know what y'all talking about, but I'm going to learn. And I learned.
Pretty fast, too.
Yeah. With those HB yellow pencils.
Yep.
Mechanical pencils.
Mm-hmm. I still use mechanical. I use a drafting pencil.
You got to have it.
But, yeah, I was just learning about, like, all the different aspects to what it was to become an artist and be in the art field and making connections and stuff. That was the most important thing to me, was like, how do I do this? Like, how do I make this into a career? And how do I get better, you know, at my art and making my own style and stuff? And I feel like CIA kicked my ass so much that now I'm just reaping the benefits of it. Because, like, now it's like, if anybody comes and talk to me about my art, I know the answers. And I know how to talk about it. And, like, if people ask me, like, you know, what type of papers do you use? I already know that answer, and why I use the type of papers I use, or why I use the type of canvases and all that stuff. So
properly prepared.
And like, it was just a lot for me in college. I would say doing BFA thesis work was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
So what age did you start to take it serious? Because I'm hearing that you, in high school, you were in theater and you were doing all these things outside of the actual practice of drawing and et cetera. So when did you say to yourself, man, you know what, let me start taking this serious? And I asked that because, again, we talk with young people all the time. And so we want to make sure that they understand that it's not a on and off switch. it can come later on in life. It can, trigger you right now. So when did it become like a real thing for you, where you say, you know what, I'm gonna start taking this real serious?
I would say I didn't start taking art super seriously until like my junior or senior year of high school.
Okay.
Because I was always doing art, and I was just known as the guy that was like, yeah, you can get a drawing from Davon down the hall if you need one.
You were that guy.
Yeah, I was that guy. But like I was just interested in science, and I had a telescope and stuff like I was telling you, and I was like looking at the stars and stuff. The moon. Yeah, I was a real nerd. I was like, man, like I was really into like just my studies and stuff, and I just didn't think I was gonna, make art into a career. So like I think it was my junior year. My grandmother passed away from cancer, and like she always loved my art and everything. And I remember going to the hospital, and then like it was, we were getting the big news that everything was, all sad. But like I had a sketchbook and stuff, and I just remember like a week before she was like, don't give up on art, keep doing your thing and stuff, and you'll make something out of it one day. And then when I got into my senior year, that was when I was talking to the art teacher and asking her, like, what do I need to do to make a portfolio? Like, how do I do that? Here's all the work that I was doing, like, from freshman year until now. So give me a critique. Can I sit, after your classes sometimes and do, like, a still life and stuff? Because she was telling me I needed more still lives, and I needed more observational drawings and my stuff. So yeah, I was just taking the initiative to kind of get more involved. So I didn't really take it seriously until late, and then I just went to college for it.
Okay. And one of the most important things that I hear in that is you took the initiative.
Yeah.
You said, you know what, this is something I want to do. I'm going to go and ask the questions in order to get the answers that I need in order for me to pursue what I want to pursue. And so who is that professional artist that you say, you know what, there's levels to this? Who do you look at and say, you know what, I still have more work to do? Who do you draw inspiration from?
I actually think it's from everyone surrounding me, to be honest. I don't think it's like one individual person.
Okay.
I think is, like talking to you guys, like I have learned so much from you two about like the art world and everything, and about like, how to protect yourself and making sure you read stuff. And like
Kids read.
And kids read. Please. But just everyone, that has been very involved in my life and who has supported me and stuff, like college professors that I've had that actually took the initiative to be outside of the classroom and tell me stuff, and to be hard on me on even like the littlest things, because they wanted to see my art kind of thrive even more than it was, or go further than it was. So it's like I've just taken inspiration from a lot of people who are close to me, and even people I see on like Instagram and stuff too, because there's a lot of great artists on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, I've just also have surrounded myself by very good people that I like to call mentors and stuff for me, just because mentorship is important.
Yeah, you need that.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay, so just in wrapping it up, man, I wanted to ask a little bit more about mentorship, and do you see yourself, mentoring at any point some young people who are coming up, or are you interested in that at all? And so I wanted to kind of get your perspective on that.
I think I see myself mentoring younger people, and like I think I do it kind of vaguely a little bit with people who kind of randomly message me on Instagram, like, how do you do this, or is this normal for like a gallery to be telling me and stuff, and I would like give them advice and all that stuff. So I think I take on that mentorship role kind of like informally, I guess. But like it's still something that's super serious that I talk with them about. So I'm interested in that.
I see what you mean, especially with dealing with so many young people, you want to see who's serious.
Yeah.
Who's really serious, especially nowadays. So I can almost, I see what you mean, and I think that those young people who actually come to you and they're serious and they're persistent and they're just nagging you. You almost see, okay, I'm gonna help this young guy really become who he's trying to become. And so I think that, absolutely duplicating yourself. Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly, man.
Being a legend.
Yes.
Man, legendary. Absolutely. So we find ourselves at this point, man, opening a gallery and giving African Americans an opportunity to exhibit their work, to take full ownership over their work and over this space. Do you think that more artists should take this opportunity, or do you think that it's an opportunity that how can I say this, man? I'm trying to say it the right way, and
ain't really a right way. We on a podcast. You say what the hell you want to say.
Okay, so let me just say this. Okay, so equity as a young African American male having a space like this. Do you think that it's important for them to take an opportunity like this, or seek other opportunities with bigger galleries, or do you see this space as an opportunity to really show what you have?
I'd say like all of that, because it's like you should definitely take this up. Like it shouldn't be like something you pass up at all, because when you do, apply for those bigger galleries and everything, you start to see that you don't have a lot of creative freedom to do what you want to do. And with a space like this, you actually have a lot of creative freedom, and you actually get to see, what work you want to put out there, what type of, settings you want your artwork in, and who you really want to see, your artwork. And and it's not bad to still, seek out different opportunities, but it's also great to have this as well too. So it's like you shouldn't just choose one or the other. It's like you should still be searching for different things and all of that, but also make sure that you do stuff like this, because this is a very great opportunity. Like I've done some things in here that a lot of galleries have not let me do in here. So, and I've shown work that is not really traditionally prepped in a certain way that galleries want you to prep. Most galleries want you to have all of your artwork framed, no matter how large it is. And especially for paperwork as well too. For sure. Like for paintings, it's like a different story. They usually want it wire hanged and all of that stuff. But like within this space, I was able to use my new system of hanging my paper drawings, and as you can see, it worked out really well. It doesn't damage anything.
About the significance of the paper, because I know we were having a conversation the other day, and you actually brought it to my attention about how Japanese hang.
Yeah, they're wall hangings and stuff. And so like for me, I hang my artwork very raw, is unframed. You can see it like roll up on the ends and all of that stuff. And I take inspiration from Japanese wall hangings to where it is nice, adorned and displayed and everything. And you can see the weathering and stuff within those. And it's a piece of history. And so with mine, you're looking at literally like these ripped edges, these torn edges and everything, as if I tore it out of a diary, or it has some ageness to it. And I just took inspiration from seeing like that stuff in the museum and stuff, because I pay attention to little details and stuff while I'm in the museum, like, oh, look at that burn on the corner of the stuff,
People overlook that.
They overlook that. And like for me, I appreciate stuff like that, because literally my artwork is straight from my diary and stuff. Like you're literally looking at my whole entire life at this point, and it's like I want it to be raw. I want it to be presented to people in a raw form, and that's because that's how a diary is, and that's usually how that historical context comes to be in those Japanese wall hangings and stuff. It's like we're looking at important pieces of history from them, especially with like African art too. It's like you see a lot of stuff like that, more three-dimensional, but it's like this is a piece of their history and their culture, which sometimes it's not, you know, gained in the right ways, but you know, we're still seeing like something
in the right way.
Not
nothing in the museums
because we're not supposed to be seeing some of that stuff, but like that's what I want my artwork to do, and that's why I hang my drawings like this without a frame and stuff.
So speaking of your work, do you have anything coming soon that people can kind of get prepared for, get excited about? Do you have any shows coming up?
Yes.
Kind of let everybody know about.
November 19th, I have a show with the Artist Archives. It's a group show. There's a lot of great artists that'll be in there. And it's called About Body, About Face. And it's all talking about, you know, the black body within history and how it's been vilified, sexualized, or basically the different narratives that has to deal with the black body and stuff, and how it kind of has been navigating throughout history. So that's coming up November 19th. There's going to be a virtual exhibition and an artist panel. So we'll be talking. Tune in. And then it'll also be up for, I think, 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah. And then
that's a long time.
And then
give us 3.
and then I have another solo show which will have more of my like soft, delicate drawings in there. It's more of my smaller work and stuff as well too. It'll be at Young's Art Center January, and I have a solo show with Bay Arts, and I think it's
busy.
August.
Super busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
Super busy. There's been a lot of emailing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you one question though before we wrap up. What do you tell the young people out there that wanna that's looking at Davon's work and they just following your career, and when you become a legend, how do they become legendary in their own way and in their own walk as an artist? What's your take on becoming a legend?
I would say stay true to yourself and stay true to your artwork, and always, you know, seek out becoming better than you were yesterday. Every piece I make sure I'm better than the last piece, or I'm doing something that I didn't do the last piece. Just so that, you know, it's still the same artwork. You still see Davon in it, but you see that growth and stuff. So it's like, always stay true to yourself and don't let people just knock you down, because, you know, not everyone's going to like your artwork, or not everyone's going to support you in the way that you want to be supported and stuff. It just comes up to you ultimately, and I know that's a lot of responsibility for yourself, but at the end of the day, like, you have to, you know, sleep with yourself at night. You have to create that artwork in the studio by yourself, and, you know, you kind of also have to promote yourself as well too, especially in this day and age where social media is like that ticket for everyone. It's like you have to make sure that you're making work, you're putting it out there, and
watching you charging too much for them promotions.
Get out of here, Instagram and Facebook. But just making sure that you're taking care of yourself throughout, you know, this journey, because it is a journey. And, you know, even though you might get, you know, super sad or stuck, or you may not even be selling anything, don't let that affect you. I didn't sell my first big piece until like a couple weeks ago. So like, and that was a major great thing for me, because like throughout the years, people have always told me like, change up your style, or you should price your artwork less and stuff. And like, this literal person just bought my piece for what I said it, without me changing it, and that was it. So it's like, people are out there that, you know, want to support you, and they will find your work, and they will, you know, give you, you know, the world.
Somebody bought fidget spinners. Somebody bought those.
Exactly. If someone can make millions of dollars off a fidget spinner, you can make $1 million off your artwork. It might take a little bit to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned social media, and so how can people, engage with you? Do you go live at all? And how can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Davon.Brantley. It's DAVON BRANTLEY. And I also have a website. It's dbrantleyart.com. And sometimes I do go live on Instagram when I'm just being silly, or if I'm like doing like a little paint demo or a drawing demo and stuff, I'll wear a wig or something. But like a little Bob Ross wig or something. I'm planning on getting that one, but right now we have this like short bob cut thing.
Okay, so you clowning on there.
So yeah, I'm clowning. But yeah, you can follow me on there, and I'll go live sometimes. I also answer people's questions, so if you have any questions.
One more thing before we actually wrap up. I have one more question, man. I mean, because,
Becomes
I'm
21 questions.
Yeah. 31 questions. Damn. And then just like that, the question just left me, man. Damn. It was about money though. Starving artist.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a starving artist? Because I know people, and it's just for the kids. I just want to at least get your opinion on this, and I want to go home and not ask you this, but how do children? I mean, for the babies, like Wu-Tang for the babies, Davon for the babies. How do you feel about the starving artist? Like get them some encouragement about that statement. Have you heard that? Do you feel that?
I've heard that a lot. There's actually a lot of disrespectful conversations when you go to weird events and stuff by people like, is the starving artist thing real? And
right.
like, what is your real career goal and all that other stuff? And it's just like, to me, I don't feel like
Somebody asked you about a real career.
Yes. Right after I showed them all of the stuff that I was in. Wow. But like,
were they listening?
They were not listening. But yeah, you're gonna get that question a lot. I don't necessarily see myself as a starving artist at all, just because like I have my hands in a lot of things. I also have like part-time job. I teach, all that stuff. So I don't necessarily categorize myself as a starving artist. I'm eating. But I just think it's just gotten so like weird of a term, to be honest. Like I feel like people just, when you talk about the fact that you want to be an artist or that you are an artist, they just assume like you're not making any money, or if you're not in the big museums, like, how are you making money at all? And people like kind of forget, like, we do commissions, like we sell prints. We do other work. We can curate and get paid for that and stuff, like
public art,
everything. Like, there's a lot of different options to make money in art and stuff. It's not
tattoos.
Just tattoos. I've freaking sketched up a tattoo design for someone recently as well. It's like, it's not just a one-way street. It's not like you just go into being an artist and then automatically you're broke.
Body paint.
Body paint.
Body paint on the strippers.
Going to the strip clubs, body painting people, But there's just a lot of different options, and I feel like people would just get the wrong idea from artists and stuff. It's like, it's not really a thing, and it's a lot easier to make money in art now.
That's a fact.
Just because, like, you have access to the internet.
That's a fact.
And it's like, you can be on Etsy selling things, or you can be on Big Cartel, Redbubble. There's all these sites where you can make money and stuff. And then it's also, surrounding yourself by people who are actually going to buy your stuff.
Yep.
And like, not surrounding yourself with people who are just negative. And they're like, oh man, you make a great artist and stuff, but then at the end of the day, they're not trying to support you. And then they're not trying to, like, because even if you can't pay for something, you can still repost, my thing. But like,
why not?
Why
It
not?
can lead to a sale.
It can lead to stuff.
can
I don't
lead
have
to
to
a
be a
sale.
starving artist, but you're
can lead
contributing to it.
A sale. It costs you no money to repost.
To repost, support, word of mouth, all that. It's just like I
Unless you
think
think I'm
people
whack.
have like this weird notion for artists. I don't think it necessarily exists. I just think it is hard
Yeah.
being an artist because you do have to sell stuff in order to make money.
Yeah.
And like I just think it's just like any other job. You just have to put the work in order to see the results. So it's like,
I agree.
yeah, that's what I would give as advice is just like, just put the work in and it's going to happen. Like, I remember when I was selling art in my middle school, I almost got kicked out of school because I was selling art outside.
Okay. He was trapping. He was trapping. They was about to arrest him at school. That's crazy.
So it's like I was just selling like my little off-brand Dragon Ball Z drawings and all that.
They try to lock you up for that.
Try to lock me up.
Wow.
Trapping out the back door.
Yup. Outside the classroom.
Wow.
I was skipping.
Wow.
But it's like people just automatically assume everyone's a starving artist, and we all have jobs. Like
That's a fact. So they wouldn't. They tried to, stop your hustle with the drawings, but homie can sell the Snicker bars and all of that, the cakes and all that. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's actually like this weird thing with schools that I found out is like you actually have to get like permission and certificates and stuff to do the candy sales on campus. Because even if you are just selling candy and
So I can see
yeah,
you doing that.
like even if
You
you
ain't
were
doing that
like
at Collinwood. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
they was leaving y'all
Out the
alone.
locker.
But yeah, it was like you had to have like a permit or something. It was weird.
I got you.
Yeah.
But hey, it's just like that in terms of putting in the work and just being consistent.
Being consistent.
Yeah. Okay.
I ain't got no more questions.
Well, hey, we are the Museum of Creative Human Art, where we inspire the creation of art in underserved communities. Davon, we appreciate you.
Appreciate
Just
you.
like that.
Glad I got to come on.
Peace.